dysfunctional that here. This is a heater buddy. This unit is very, very old. I don't even know when I bought it. I've had this probably since they first came out 100 years ago. If you notice, it's a single burner, and you can get them still as a single burner or a double burner, but this is a single. And like I said, I bought this so long ago, I don't remember when I got it. I don't even remember why I bought it, but I do tell you that I have it, and here it is. And I'm going to discuss some functions with it. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I'm going to tell you how I'm keeping this thing running after, gosh, I guess I could write Heater Buddy and ask him about it, but to be honest with you, I'm not going to do that. So let's look at this thing. Let's look at the parts. Up here at the top, we have the on-off switch, as well as the function of the plunger that we'll get into in just a moment. We have our gas right here that goes down to the burner. You'll notice a very small tube. This is where our gas in is on this particular model. Let me zoom in just a bit. This is your gas to your burner. This is the gas that comes in, and this right here is the gas to the pilot. This is down to the thermocoupler, which turns the gas on or off depending upon whether it's getting the microvolt voltage going to it once it's on. Because I removed the frame, I don't have the safety shut-off device. It's right down here. It's a small circular, this is completely out of the frame. I mean, I completely stripped this off so I can show you this. Down here there was a small, little bitty bell-shaped item, kind of a sphere. And that sphere consists of a small probe that comes up from the bottom. Let me show you a visual description here. You'll notice that it's a circular object. Down at the bottom it has a contact that comes up, and the shell makes the continuation of the contact, and this little bearing, this little ball bearing, fits inside. That was the first thing that went bad on this. Alright, now we're back to this. This little ball bearing thing that was right here was a safety switch. If it turns over, it breaks the power coming from the, let me spin this around, that comes from the thermocoupler. The thermocoupler comes up, and it comes up here to this. This is where I soldered this together to bypass that faulty ball valve. In order to get parts for this, you need the serial number off of the back of this. And in times past, whenever I've gone for parts, they always show to be sold out. So I got to where I no longer even look for parts. So let me turn this and go back to this valve, because this is the whole point of this discussion. This is the on-off. This little black thing that you see right back here by where the top of the spoon is, this is the plunger which fires off the piezoelectric. This valve was getting to where it wasn't functioning right, so I put a drop of oil up here and I cleaned the oil off of it, and once I did that, the plunger was working properly. The problem is I could not keep the thing working because the thermal resistor, which is down in here somewhere, is either going bad, is bad, or who knows what. Again, I looked for parts. I spent about 6 hours looking for this thermal resistor, and I couldn't, or thermocoupler, and I could not find the correct one. And I'm not going to tell you my skills with a computer are all that great. So I am not going to tell you how I did it, but I have now successfully defeated all of the safety features inside this heater buddy. Now this heater buddy is one that I was using when the Polar Gang were born. And when this case is put back together, when all the shell is back on this thing, it is physically bolted to the floor and it's inside a frame. There's no way on earth that this thing can turn over. And so I'm not worried about it starting a fire. With all the safety features defeated, this thing now works. But I don't want to go spend 79 bucks for another heater buddy, or 179 or whatever they cost, when, since this thing can't turn over, it's just like a big floor furnace. For those of you that are old enough to remember, it used to be you could get a furnace for the floor, you turn the gas on, you light the thing off, it burns. When you're finished with the heat, you turn the valve off, the fire goes out. I don't know if they even make those anymore. I haven't looked for one. But this is still working, and I'm going to tell you right now, if you do this, you risk serious injury, death, and loss of property. This is completely in violation of everything that's totally safe. And seeing as how I worked safety for the Army for most of my entire military career, going out and telling people what not to do, I thought I would tell you, don't do this. With that said, Dysfunctional Vet wishes all of you a very profitable, IRS notwithstanding, 2023. Dysfunctional Vet out. The piezo sparker. The piezo sparker is held on by a cert clip and a small washer that hold it in place so that it doesn't try to push the starter cap on. It slips down inside here, and to remove this valve that you see right here, and I did try to find a replacement valve as well as a thermocoupler, but I was unable to do that after my 6 hours of searching on the internet. I took this apart, removed the cert clip, removed the washer. This slips out. To remove this valve, there's two Phillips head screwdriver, or two Phillips screws here. You remove those and the valve will fall off. Be very careful that you don't bend or crimp the little pipes that are on here. These little pipes right here, be careful you don't bend those. The whole thing comes apart. I took a paper towel, dampened it with some mean green. I cleaned this off and the plunger started working properly. It just had some dirt in it. I kind of blew it out a little bit. Everything was good. There is a hex head, maybe 8-sided, but I think it's hex right here. You can take that off and the whole thing just kind of falls apart on you. Now the valve has two Phillips. I did not disassemble the valve. There was no reason for that. Once I had this working, I still wasn't getting a spark. So let's look at what I did. The lighting is really pathetic out here. Right down here is the probe that comes from the piezoelectric. I took a knife and I very lightly scraped the carbon off of it. And then I took a knife and I very lightly scraped the carbon off of this right here where the gas is coming out to complete the circuit. Now the piezoelectric sends a spark, and if your spark is any good, it's going to be blue in color. Mine is more white than blue, but they say that you want a blue spark, which is hot. My spark, I think, is a little on the cold. Now white is normally considered a much hotter spark, but it does light it off. It does work properly. So that's good. This device right here, if you can see it, was the thermocoupler. The pilot comes on, it heats this up. It goes through that little ball valve that that little ball switch that I told you about, which was the off if it got tilted. which I defeated. That was the first thing I defeated. And now this thermocoupler has been completely defeated. So once the pilot is on, the pilot will not turn off under any circumstances. Once the gas is on, the gas will not turn off under any circumstances. Again, you risk injury, death, and property loss, as well as liability if you cause a fire that causes damage to other people because you defeated this.